bankrupt. It doesn't matter, right? Correct.
And it is to finance most of the projects.
Perfect. Perfect.
Real estate, not takers.
Lot of real estate and and no takers. Fantastic. Banks then went bankrupt. You sir, sorry, you were saying something. Same thing. I will give you a positive slide. I will not say negative unless absolutely required. See, the Sheikh had no choice. Dubai does not have oil. Let's get this clear. So unlike an Abu Dhabi or a Saudi, he does not have oil. So obviously he would have gone to consultants like us and said, what do I do for my people? And he was given a route. The route that he was given is, you don't have oil, convert yourself as a tourism center. Convert yourself as a financial services center. And moment you convert yourself as a financial services center, you will earn, That means be as Singapore. And that's how he started on his trip. And there were mistakes, but let's not focus on mistakes here. You make mistakes sometimes, but let's learn from the mistakes. That's how the biggest mall of the world was produced. The biggest tower of the world was produced. They started off when the economy was doing well. By the time they finished, Dubai was in trouble. And there's a very good study, by the way. It is known as the skyscraper curse. A lot of countries start, the skyscrapers when things are good. By the time they finish it, there's a study on that, And then he had that Palm Beach Islands, where people came and invested. Unfortunately for him, the subprime crisis happened in US. And now I don't need to tell this audience. That was a big crisis. Thank you very much, sir. Funding dried up and he got into trouble. Now I want you all to analyze this and link it to balance sheet. End. Introduction over. Now we'll look at each of this in detail. Each of this in detail. One fine day, the Sheikh comes in, and let's assume I am the Sheikh and you're all the bankers. The Sheikh comes in and says, excuse me, I have to pay you 8 billion. I'm sorry. I need a moratorium with a haircut. That means it's a SDR, sovereign default. I need a sovereign debt restructuring. And the markets were like shocked. Now, for the dear colleague who said how to deal with bankers, my humble request is, bankers hate uncertainty. If you're looking at a banker is not tuned to anything. If there's something that a banker gets very upset about is, a banker hates uncertainty. So for those of you who are looking at practical implications, let me come into my consulting thing and tell you all, the way I try and keep banks happy is I ask my clients, please keep submitting monthly, if not monthly, at least quarterly reports. The banker may not read it, but you submit it. So he feels that things are going as per normal. And this is the problem with Dubai. Bankers hated it because he kept saying till 3 days before the default, he kept saying things are good in Dubai, things are good in Dubai. And in fact, there was a slogan that was coined for Dubai. Sun never sets on Dubai. Anything can happen in the world. The sun will never set in Dubai. It's only when, just a joke, not sarcasm, just a joke. It's only when he announced the default that people realized because the sun is not setting, it had burnt everything in Dubai. Okay, so my God, this is a big problem. And bankers were annoyed. And most of them, thank you, pulled back their financing. Some of them still continued their financing. And now I'm coming to the principles of finance. I'm going to flip this page and I'm going to give you 2 principles of finance which all of you all should remember for life. And I want to go to the younger Pankaj here. Let's assume, dear friend, some banks are willing to fund. Most of these banks have withdrawn. Let's say one bank, Hema ma'am, there is still willing to fund Dubai. And we are talking of commercial transactions. We are not talking of social obligations, commercial transactions. Will the bank which is willing to fund, will the bank charge Dubai? Simple question, sir, but I want the response to come from you all. Will the bank, most of the banks have withdrawn, saying Dubai is a bad case. Now we have to recover money, forget lending. Some banks are still saying, like one here, saying, chalo, we'll take this risk and we'll still lend to Dubai. Will they charge, simple one, will they charge a lower interest rate or a higher interest rate? Then, a very polite gentleman. He was waiting for me to finish the question. Thanks for the spontaneity. First principle of finance. You may be a banker, you may be an analyst, you may be a CFO, pleasure having you here, sir. You may be a marketing head, you may be an operations head. First principle of finance. And remember it for anything and everything in finance. Thank you. Risk versus return. 2 principles of finance which you will remember forever. 2 principles of finance which you would remember forever. First principle is risk versus return. Thank you, dear Pankaj. Thank you very much. And I want the spontaneity to come. Obviously, a higher interest rate because the banker is perceiving higher risk. Excuse me, for the dear colleague who is talking about bankers, when you talk to bankers, please to show them lower risk. How? We will talk post lunch when I get into ratios. Right? When the banker sees lower risk, he will be comfortable with you. Moment he sees a higher risk, either he will not lend or he will jack up his interest rate. And the principle is very simple, right? Lower the risk, lower the return. Let me give you an answer. And let me explain this through investments, okay? Let me explain this through an investments, and I'll make it slightly funny because I need to communicate. My dad is retired, right? And let's say I go to my dad who's retired and he comes with this provident fund and he comes in and says, where should I invest? And suppose I tell him, Dad, you do one thing. You can invest in stock markets. And stock markets give you 40% returns, 40% returns. So you invest your provident fund and gratuity in the stock markets. It will give you 40% returns. The joke comes now. The only thing with this 40% is I'm not sure about the sign, whether it is going to be plus 40 or minus 40. Right? Right. Thank you. Dad would say, but just forget all this. I need my capital to be safe. Then please do one thing. Invest in RBI bonds. Safe. Right? Bank deposits. Right? Preferably nationalized banks. Right? Right? That is your safe. 8% you get. Lower the risk, lower the return. Higher the risk, higher the return. One twist in the story, higher the return expected. Whether you get, right? Whether you get it or no, right, is a call on the markets, right? On the same website, I'll not discuss it today, obviously, but I get a feeling some of you all will be, and especially some seniors are there, would be interested in project finance and valuations. I've uploaded the videos there. And I want to keep telling this, the two principles, that's all. For you all, at this stage, if you want to take it further, I've given you the source. One is risk versus return. Second principle of finance is time value of money. That's all. Finance is two principles. Itna aapko yaad rakhna hai mere liye. One is risk versus return. Second is time value of money. Again, let me ask some very simple questions. Right? I need to keep interacting with you all. Rohanji, very simple question. I'm sorry, but I need you to respond, young friend. Or rather, I'll not put it as a question. So very obvious, at least for this evolved audience. A rupee that I earn today is much more valuable than a rupee that I earn after a month. That's your time value of money. You may do NPV, you may do project finance, we'll talk, right? But at the end of it, there are two things in finance, risk versus return. So in this case, I've introduced, now the introduction is over with this. First rule, finance is logic. Second, if you look at jargons, look at the English behind the jargons, it will be demystified. Third, any situation that you face, sir, look at this, right? If somebody comes and says, I'll give you 28% returns, then you need to look at that investment and say, is there any risk in this? I need to analyze this. 28% in today's terms looks like it's very high. So can I see if there's a risk in this? And then the questions start. Having said this, let's finish balance sheet. What does the balance sheet indicate? I've said it long time back, but I took a detour to satisfy some colleagues. A balance sheet indicates something which is known as worth, says the young friend, which is also right. I'll get the word out. The word is like this, but before the word goes in, let's analyze this case. The answer will come from you all. I'll go to Nitilji. So most of the banks have withdrawn. Some banks continue and they are charging higher interest rates, as a young friend said. My question is, why did the Sheikh get into all this trouble? I've been told by dear Ashwant, right? Ashwant sir tells me that the Sheikh is worth 10 billion. Sheikh is worth 10 billion. And the loan outstanding is only 8 billion. Right. Good. Right? But since I have given it to the colleague there, fantastic response. Right? I'm only wondering, why is the Sheikh not signing a check of 8 billion? He's worth 10 billion. The amount is 8 billion. He could sign a check of 8 billion and give it. And then why could he not do that? No liquidity. Okay. So yes, sir. One sec. Again, we are coming back to one more dimension, the same dimension of business we are repeating. Right? Lovely. Liquidity, which is already covered. Book value of assets. Okay. Thank you. Ronji, you were saying something.
The value of the assets that he has is not actually what the value of assets is. Same with the demon, similar to the demon brothers.
Liabilities are more than the assets.
No, the assets today aren't what they expected them to be. The asset value is
Sheikh is worth 10 billion. Where has he invested? He has invested in real estate. Nobody is going to buy that real estate today. When he invested, its value was very high. 6 months back, 1 year back. Today, if you try, and distress sales never gives you that money. Sheikh is worth 10 billion. Where the Sheikh has invested? Thanks. Thank you for liquidity. I'm coming to the third aspect of business, right? And please note, I have not used a single slide. The answers are coming from you all. Okay. So, Sheikh is worth 10 billion. Where has he invested? He has invested in shares of US-based financial companies. When he had invested, Citibank was possibly $25. Today, it's right when it got revalued, it was about $1. Sheikh's worth 10, and this is a bit of sarcasm, a bit of joke just to keep the session lively. Sheikh is worth 10 billion. He had invested in finely bred horses. See, if you have a lot of money, sometimes you do asset diversification also. Hey, that's those days. So what do you do with that now here? Nobody's going to pick it up from you now. Thank you. When you say worth, the third aspect of business comes in. Please note, and this I will give it to you. The third aspect of business is what is known as solvency. There are only 3 aspects of business, dear colleagues, right, which you have been answering. I'll give you the jargon. 1, profit and loss statement, which indicates profitability. A cash flow statement, which indicates liquidity. Balance sheet, which indicates solvency. Rajiv sir, solvency is, as dear Rohan and as dear Rajesh ji said, what is the current value of your assets? What is your current value of your assets, right? Against, absolutely, sir. Against the recorded balance sheet value, which is the book value, right? Solvency is a very critical indicator. And sometimes you find you have taken a loan. You have taken a loan of 5 crores and you have purchased a house worth 6 crores. And now what happens, expert sir, is the value of the house, please note, the value of the house is now come down from 6 crores to 4 crores. The loan against that house is still 5 crores. You are insolvent. Please note, it's a simple case of you are insolvent. 3 statements, 3 of them, right, answers came from you all, but the jargons I had to supply: profitability, liquidity, solvency. What does the, this is the introduction to the topic. Now each of this in detail, and we'll keep interacting, right? Nothing difficult in this. Please note, the first thing that you have to remember when you analyze balance sheet, ma'am, let me simplify this also for you all. First principle, Faridji, is, sir, imagine the company to be an artificial person. So if you say, right, Rajesh sir, is a person there. Jibu sir is a person. Dear Ashwat is a person. Anil Menon is a person. When I say Reliance Industries, imagine Reliance Industries as a person, artificial person standing in front of you. Kohinoor Hospitals, artificial person standing in front of you. Second principle. What are liabilities? Liabilities are nothing but sources of funds for the artificial person. Sources of funds for the artificial person. And sources of funds for the artificial person. And what are assets? Assets are nothing but, thank you, application of funds, thank you very much, application of funds by the artificial person. Get this straight and clear. 3 principles, an answer will come from you all. Imagine, I repeat, imagine the company to be an artificial person. Liabilities are sources of funds. By the sources of funds to the artificial person. Assets are application of funds by the artificial person. And the answer will come from you all. Person. Assets are application of funds by the artificial person. And the answer will come from you all. You will finish it for me. In fact, let me just go back and ask one of you all. Right? I think I've interacted with all of you all. Yeah, but sir, you answered. But let me come back to you. Banerjee sir, right? Let's say you're planning to buy a house. What would be the source of money? Right? What could be the source of money for you if you are planning to buy a house? Colleague makes it look so simple. My own money. Thank you. Is known as equity. Thank you. Equity is owners. I'll put it here. Definitely. Equity is owners' funds. What is equity? See, this is how finance comes to each one of us. So if you look at a balance sheet which says equity, what is equity? Equity is owners' funds. Even before I could say anything, the colleague was so spontaneous. He said, if I am short of money, I'll go to the bank and borrow. Fantastic. That you call as debt. And debt is known as outside funds. Debt is known as outside funds. Two forms of liabilities. One, equity, owners' funds. Second, debt, which is outside funds. The company will raise money through these two and invest in this side, which we'll look at in detail. This is the introduction to the three financial statements. I just wanted to prove a point. Answers are only coming from you all. The jargons I'm putting there, you could refer to it. Now, after a short tea break, we look at profit and loss, cash flow, balance sheet in detail. And then we'll try and figure out, right, what to look at and where to look at. But before I get there, any questions on the intro, please? Any questions on the introduction? Any, please?
Yeah, when any firm announce balance sheet or
Financial results.
present balance sheet, at that time profit and loss account is there inside the balance sheet. But what about cash flow statement is there or not?
Very nice question, ma'am. Ma'am, as of today, the rule is whenever financial results are announced by companies, they have to give all, right, obviously, sir, yeah, thank you. You have to give all the three statements. Profit and loss, cash flow, as well as balance sheet. And can I say something, and I know you, ma'am, you're very, very serious colleague, I should say serious student. In fact, most analysts, like people like me, we start with profit and loss and then immediately go on to the cash flow. And it's a mandatory requirement for every company to submit all the three statements. Profit and loss, thank you, cash flow and balance sheet, right? Till 99, we had only two, profit and loss, balance sheet. Then, aapko banana hai, aap bana lo, is what companies will tell the analysts, right? Now, SEBI Companies Act says, when you submit, we want all the three to come, right? And that's made the job of bankers very easy, right? When you look at the cash flow statement, which you will do, right, you can easily understand where the company is heading. Thank you for the question. One more? Yes, sir.
One on the sovereign.
Pleasure, sir.
Just kind of a logical thought that came. I always, used to wonder when I read in the papers. So countries after countries are going into this crisis. Because these markets are mostly a zero-sum game, all transactions. If everybody is losing money, where is it all finally going?
Nice question. Very nice. It's a very logical question. There are people who are making money, sir. Like there's a gentleman by the name, very nice question. There's a gentleman by the name of George Soros. US collapsed. He made tons of money. There's another gentleman by the name of Paulson. Right? And markets, a lot of people lost money. Right? It's a zero-sum game. There are some people who, right, gained. The best part of these people is, right, they come out and announce that they have made money after the event is over. Right? One big name is George Soros. Right? Very nice question. It's not that everybody is losing money, sir. Right? There are some people who have really, really made a killing. Really. And the name I can repeat. Some names you should remember. One name is Warren Buffett, which I'm sure all of you remember. Second name is George Soros. And who are these guys? They are what are known as hedge funds. Can I add something to it since such lovely questions are coming from you all? Hedge fund is a rich man's mutual fund. What is a mutual fund? A mutual fund will take money from common people and invest on your behalf. George Soros, right, Paulson, they all run, I'll write it down, sure, right? They run what is known as something extra, but I owe it to the audience, right? Hedge funds. Minimum, if you want to participate in George Soros hedge fund, he says minimum $10 million. And that also he'll pick and choose. He'll say, yeah, sir, okay. No, not you, but I'll take you. Right? That's how he's been operating. Right? And if you get time, right, I think Jivu sir should read it. The very good book by George Soros where he has written this is a book which is known as The New Paradigm of Finance, where he has explained how he's been looking at the financial markets now. Nice question. Any other questions on this? Yeah, some more. Yes. Yeah, we will look at all this in detail. You want some idea on application of funds? Some idea? Okay, why not? Sure. I'm going to look at it in detail. No, but out of respect for the seniority, one application would be simple fixed assets. No, sir. No. I'm going to do it in detail, but since sir wants to have an idea, fixed assets. Like you, right? Your company would buy land, building, plant and machinery. That's a fixed assets. Like that, there are some more assets which will come. We'll look at this in detail, sir. The idea was just to give an introduction.
But he's saying that.
One second. Yeah.
I know we will go into more detail later, but in terms of liabilities, equity, debt, zero.
Huh.
We would do later on this, I think, to get an understanding better of, what is better.
Which one is better?
Which one, how to analyze what is the correct route to take to raise funds.
Okay. What is the debt equity ratio?
Either sell equity or to raise, how do you analyze that?
Is this your own company by any chance?
Yes, family.
Right. You understand really what is return on investment. I'm sure you understand that. Okay, I'll do that. In passing, please know this is a finance for non-finance, but I'll respect your question. I'll try and address it. Right. One more. Pankaj ji.
Many European companies, especially the automotive companies, who are coming in India, already in India, they are setting up here manufacturing plant. They are selling vehicles in India only. So, whose GDP will improve? Indian GDP?
Nice question.
Or European?
Very nice question. What a question. Yeah. This is a very evolved audience. See, please understand, if they are selling it in India, right, and they have registered as a company in India, it will be included in GDP of India. So it will be included because they have set up their own company in India, which is in operations. No, they have not set up their company. We are importing their cars. Then it will not be counted as in GDP. One sec. Let me just satisfy the colleague. Right? So GDP is whatever you are producing in India. अभी मैं produce कुछ नहीं कर रहा, मैं बाहर से I'm getting whatever this, right? One of those cars, the famous cars. I'll just import it. That will not be counted in our GDP. Yes, it will be taken. Right? Pardon?
If you provide services for this, then
If you provide services for it, that services part will be counted. Services part will be, that will be counted. You have to take it only in that particular jurisdiction. Is it there in that particular jurisdiction? Nice one, huh? Nice question. One more, huh?
everybody now is talking about this whole retail FDI.
Huh. I will not talk about it. Huh.
We have, let's say, 100% FDI
Huh.
in retail.
मत करो ना, political हो जाएगा वो.
Will the GDP go to the country or will it go outside?
हाँ, this I'll answer. हाँ, ठीक है, okay, right. This is very controversial. फिर वो क्या होता है ना? I have my opinions, but it doesn't matter. No, Yashwant ji will obviously disagree. He is also a professional, and this forum will get diluted. That's why I'm not talking about it. And that has a plus and minus, right? So I'm sorry, I mistook the question. Is it good or bad? Now I understand. If they come and set up base, it will add up to our GDP.
What if they own on the shares of the company? A foreign company
Come and sets a base,
and sets up
like this.
company.
Indian GDP will go up, but I'll leave it at that. The only thing is they will add to the wealth, but you see, are they going to displace a lot of people is what the worry is. Right? So the biggest worry that we are, and I'm leaving this topic at this, okay, is that will they displace the mom and pop stores?
But they will increase GDP.
If the accretion is more than the destruction. I hope you got my point. Okay? Right now that is where the debate is. Is it going to be more or less? Which is where I let it be. Okay? There are, Rohan, in this audience I'll not discuss, but again I like to say that I've written about it. There is a plus and there's a minus to it also. And the facts show that somewhere it is going to happen. But then the fact is, you can't just bring in reform for the sake of reform. You'll have to look at, right, the things which are put in place so that there's an alternative for others also. One more. Sir, you were saying something, Rajesh ji. Answer?
I was just saying, hedge funds you said.
Ha.
Hedging is basically, you can say it's not legal, it's illegal. So you're talking about hedge funds or normal hedging?
Dollar hedging hai na?
Are these they are two different things or what?
No, one sec. Yeah, let me just clarify that hedging is not illegal, bete. Hedging is absolutely legal. What is hedging?
Hedging means, as per my understanding, is basically if you're so I'll tell my clients that you should buy or sell these shares. Because I have some links in that particular share market, share companies and all. So this is all what I'm saying is hedging.
That's where the mistake is. This is not hedging. What you're talking about is known as insider trading. This is different. You've been reading, but you got the term wrong, my friend. This is insider trading. And this is also, right, where many players in the market do it. Here we are talking of hedge funds. What is a hedge fund? And first is hedge, right? Please understand, what does the word hedge mean? Let me also correct some dear friends, right? A hedge only means this guy is going to take risk. And why is it a rich man's mutual fund? Is because he's going to take very high risk. And because he's taking very high risk, he may give you very high returns. Or he may just get wiped out also. That's the reason why, if you see George Soros, he does not let anybody and everybody come and join us, right? Give him fund units. He says, I don't want your finance. If you are ready to take this loss, come in. Now, coming back to the point, what I really liked about your thing is, I'll still take a positive from your discussion. Hedge funds are not allowed in India. I'll finish this discussion with that. But please note, hedging is not illegal. Hedging is legal. Like immediately Yashwantji said, dollar rupee, forward le rahe aap. Sudhirji would do it time in and time out. Yashwant sir, you would talk about it. That is a hedge product. Forward. So hedge is definitely legal. Why hedge funds are not allowed in India? This is for the bankers. You see, hedge funds, I'm not talking of hedging. Let me again say why hedge funds are not allowed. See, hedge funds are normally very secretive. Can I use your term? Secretive investment animals, as some colleague calls it, right? So they don't like to disclose their portfolios. Now what SEBI says is, if you see mutual fund, a mutual fund quarterly, they have to tell you where they have invested your money. They have to disclose their NAV on a daily basis. Now if you go to a hedge fund says, no, I will not disclose my portfolio. It's a proprietary secret. Because I am taking this, somebody else will copy it. India has taken the route saying that if that is the case, we don't want you, right? So in Indian context, we only have mutual funds. But the question that my dear colleague asked is, in US and others, who are these guys who made some tons of money? Some of these guys are coming from the hedge fund industry. Coming back.
They can operate from outside India and act as FDI.
No.
Can
Right.
foreign funds invest in India?
If you say hedge funds, it will only come in as FII. Right? Let me, again, one last thing, but let me satisfy the colleagues also, right? We are coming out of it, but 2 more minutes. But since there are questions, please understand there is a difference between FII and FDI. It's worthwhile knowing this though. FDI stands for Foreign Direct Investment. Rohanji? FII stands for Foreign Institutional Investors. This is Foreign Direct Investment. FII is Foreign Institutional Investors. Yeah, let me also satisfy the Namita also. There's a third way the country can earn foreign exchange. That is through ECBs. External Commercial Borrowing. Thank you, Pankaj. 3 ways a country can earn foreign exchange or can get foreign exchange. FDI stands for Foreign Direct Investment. FII stands for Foreign Institutional Investors. ECB stands for External Commercial Borrowing. FDI means the company will come, and you can see all these colleagues, MNC colleagues, the company will come, set up base in India, generate employment. That is FDI. FII, they will not set up base and start operations. They will only buy shares of companies. So, koi Reliance ka shares kharid liya, SBI ka shares kharid liya. That is FII, right? Some of the names of FIIs, Morgan Stanley, right? FDI, you can look around. There are dear friends working with MNCs. That is FDI. Any government policy will always try to encourage FDI because FDI is more permanent form. It generates employment. Thank you. FII is more hot money. One line, but I don't want to take it. I write hot money means, sir, it can go back anytime. I would write opportunistic, right? They have come and invested. Kal unko laga ki nahi, Brazil is better, Russia is better, so Indian shares they'll sell and go. MNCs cannot do that because they have purchased property, they have, right? So unko, for example, Enron, Even if they wanted to go back, they could not because they already set up a plant. One line. China's success over India is that, I want to put it positively, is that it has attracted more FDI. Right? Okay, I have to say this, Indian forex flows were more FII dependent, which partly answers, Rajeshji, your superb observation why rupee depreciated more also, which you brilliantly brought up. Okay, FII is, Rajiv, so hot money. If they see that नहीं कुछ नहीं हो रहा है इंडिया में, policy is not good यार, or that's a better country, or forget everything, we'll buy dollars. There might be nothing wrong with Reliance. Reliance must be still doing very well, or maybe some gas somewhere 20% drop, but they would simply sell the shares of Reliance and go. That's your hot money. ECB is external commercial borrowing. Please note, RBI policies will be, the government policies will be toughest for ECB because it is a borrowing. And please remember, whenever there is a borrowing, over a longer period of time, more foreign exchange will go out. Because loans means you have to pay interest. So out of these three, which is the one which typically RBI will be very controlled?